Hello, and welcome to the Next Brave Step podcast, the podcast that's all about turning dreams into action. I'm your host, Chelsy Weisz. Now, this podcast is more than just something to listen to while you fold laundry. Instead, imagine I'm inviting you to join me in my kitchen, a space for genuine and transformative conversations. Here, with the sunlight streaming through the windows, margaritas and homemade guac on the table, we're ready to dive into stories and strategies that don't just inspire you to think about a better life, but give you the tools, motivations to go out there and make it happen. So pull up a chair, let's talk like old friends, and together we'll navigate the journey from turning dreaming into doing, one brave step at a time. Your adventure towards making your dreams a reality starts right here. Hey guys, and welcome back to season 3 of the Next Brave Step podcast. I'm so excited for you guys to be joining me. This season is going to be amazing, so we're going to go ahead and dive right on into our first episode. And we're going to be talking a little bit about the power of dreams and how we can really move from dreams into action. So to kind of take you a little bit along for a journey here, I have had quite the story unfold for me over the last couple of months, really over the last year. So in January, I became the economic development director for our city, which was super fun and really exciting. And I felt very unqualified when I first even applied for it. But once I got into it, I realized that I had way more skill sets that applied to that position than I ever thought was possible. I'm really proud of the work that I accomplished, the projects that I started, the people that I met. It was a really, really, really fun experience. But when we got to early this fall, it just wasn't feeling like it was fulfilling me on a really deep level. And I just found myself in this like autopilot mode, like get up, same time every day, go to work, get the kids to school, come home, be so exhausted and just drained from the environment that I was in, that I couldn't really pour into my own business, my passions, my hobbies even. And it was just draining. And I could see how it could become this thing where it's like, well, this is what society says that I should do. I should have this job that is, very stable and very impressive. But when it really came down to it, there was something much deeper inside of me that said, this isn't right. That said, you need to do something else. And for a minute there, I said, no, I can't step out of this box that I've put myself in. It's a really nice box. It's a nice pedestal, like it's an impressive job. But it just kept nagging on me. And that thing, that deep calling down inside of me, that was like my inner dream, my inner guidance, my inner purpose. And that's what we're going to talk about today, is really understanding the power of your dream and how you can take that dream and harness it into actionable reality. So, what are dreams when it comes to the context of personal development and ambition? So, like I said, like the dream is that thing that's inside of you that says, I want more, I want something different. And it can be so tempting to not listen to the dream, to push it down, to go with the flow and not disrupt the status quo. And I think a lot of people fall into that. And if they're content with that, that's great. But the world is missing out on something so amazing that only this person who had this calling deep inside of them can bring into the world. And if we are not leaning into that, the world is missing out on it. So how do you really figure out what your dreams are? Because it's something, because your why, your dream, your whatever, is this thing deep inside of you, right? And I have a feeling that if you're listening to this podcast, you either already know what it is that you want to do, or you're in that state or that season or that stage where you're starting to feel called, you're starting to feel pulled, you're starting to wake up and say, what I'm doing right now isn't what I want to do. And if you're in that season, girl, I am so excited for you. It is so much fun. It is so exhilarating. And it is so scary to realize that you want something more, that in order to live a life that looks different from everybody else's, you're going to have to do some things that are scary, some things that, other people aren't willing to do. You're going to come to this point where you're like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do the scary thing. Or, you know what? It wasn't for me. And I think that this is something that that it happens throughout your whole career, throughout your whole life. You're going to come up against these things of like, I don't know, it's like this decision in the road, this fork in the road. You're either going to go one way or you're going to go the other way. And it's that moment, that pivotal moment where you get to decide one way or another that is hard and it's scary and it's exciting. So if you're starting to feel this pull, this want for more, this change from what you're currently doing to something different, the first thing that you need to do is really just take a step back and evaluate what it is that you're feeling, what it is that you're thinking. Take inventory of all of the stuff. Because so often I think it can be very easy to just shove it all down and not really explore all of it. So take an afternoon, put your phone on silent, stay off social media, find someone to watch the kids, take an afternoon off of work, and really get quiet with yourself to ask, like, what if? What if whatever I wanted to happen happened? What would it look like? How would it feel? And this is something that I put off doing for a minute. Like, I didn't sit down and like do it because I was afraid that if I sat down and I wrote it out and really like breathed life into this dream, what would happen if I couldn't make it happen? Like, what would happen if I failed on making that dream a reality? So if I never wrote it down, it was like it never existed. But deep inside, it does. Deep inside, that you want to build this business, or you want to travel, or you want to build a home, or grow a huge garden and live off the land and sell sourdough. I don't know what it is. I don't know what your dream is, but you do. You know that there's something deep down inside. Your homework for today is to sit down and really feel into what it is that is driving you to want more out of life. What is it that you're taking that next brave step towards? And really feel into what it is, because that feeling, that future goal of yours really becomes the blueprint for your success. And when you can start with that end goal in mind, getting there is so much easier instead of just blindly taking the next step forward, right? So the way that I like to think about it is that goals and dreams are not exactly the end destination. Actually, they're not the end destination at all. They're truly like guideposts. You've never done any hiking before. Let me explain what a guidepost really is, because this was something I had heard in the personal development world for a long time. Like, oh, your goals are guideposts. And like, what the hell is an actual guidepost, right? Okay, so whenever you are going to go on a trail, if you're going to go on a hike, to like an actual like planned out hike that is like an established trail, whether it's a state park or a national park or any of the things, right? You're going to start out at your trailhead, and there's going to be this really long post, and it's going to say like number 1 on it, or it's going to have like a yellow like cap on the top of the post, right? Then your goal from there is to look out across the horizon and find the next post. The next one's going to say number 2, or it's going to be the same yellow post, right? And you're going to look towards that post and you're going to start walking. Now, a great example of this is in the Badlands National Park in South Dakota. So it is this very rocky terrain. There's all these like dips and crevices, and the ground itself is like dry, chalky. So there's not like a set path because the ground is so hard and there's no grass growing. So it's not like you can follow like a path that someone else has created for you ahead of you. You have to look to where that guidepost is, keep your eye on it, and just keep walking, right? You're going to keep walking towards it. Now, what you're going to find, especially in the Badlands, is you're going to come up and all of a sudden, like, there's this huge crevice. And if you go straight, you're falling straight down there. You're going to have to find another way around. So you're going to go down the hill and then come back and look for that guidepost again, right? You're going to keep looking back to where that next guidepost is so you can get to that one. So that is what they mean by your dreams are guideposts. They're not end destinations. Because once you get to that second one, you're going to look for the third one. And when you find that third one, you're going to look for the fourth one. So whenever you're feeling into these dreams, know that it is not the end destination. You don't have to have it figured out perfectly before you start walking towards it. Because on these long trails, you're only going to be able to see one, maybe two, maybe three guideposts ahead of you, but you're not going to see the last one. You have no idea what that last grand view is going to look like because you're not to the end of the journey yet. So think of these dreams as guideposts, which also means that you have to revisit those dreams every once in a while. You can't just keep going to the same guidepost because life is going to change. Your expectations are going to change. Your situation is going to change. And that means that your guidepost is going to have to change as well. So if you haven't sat down lately and really felt into what that dream is, what that guidepost is for you, I want you to do that today. That is like the biggest thing that you can do is really see where it is that you're going. Okay. So now that we kind of know where we're going, we know where we're at, right? We know what we're doing with our life at the moment. How do you get from where you're at to where you want to go? And that's really that transformation process, right? So there are a few different ways to set goals, and I want to break down 3 different ways of setting goals. There's kind of like 3 different frameworks that I like to use. And the first one is called SMART goals. It's a very well-known framework, is an acronym. So S stands for specific, M stands for measurable, A stands for achievable, R for relevant, and then T is for time bound. So that is what SMART goals, like the breakdown of it is, right? So it's really the process of deconstructing that dream, that larger goal into smaller, more manageable tasks. This can help it feel a lot less overwhelming and help you to create that step-by-step plan of like, okay, once I hit this, then I can do that, and then I can do this, and then I can do that. Okay, so if I am going to use a SMART goal for the goal of opening an Etsy store this next year, this is kind of what it would look like. So if I wanted to be specific, I would say I want to open an Etsy store specializing in handmade jewelry with an initial inventory of 7 unique items. That is very specific, right? Next, we want to make sure that it is measurable. So I want to achieve 10 sales and 7 positive customer reviews within the first 2 months of opening. Kind of low, but you understand, right? You can change the numbers, right? The next is achievable. So I'm going to prepare by researching Etsy Marketplace, attending 2 online workshops or courses about running an Etsy business, and then create or source the initial product inventory. That is very achievable, right? The next acronym is R, which is relevant. So this goal aligns with my passion for jewelry and my long-term vision in establishing a successful online business. And then finally, time bound. So will officially open the Etsy store by July of next year allowing me 6 months for preparation, including product creation, branding, and marketing strategy development. So this SMART goal provides a clear and structured plan, ensuring the objective of launching your Etsy store. It's very well defined, it's attainable, and it has specific timeframes, right? Okay, so the next one that I want to, next framework that I want to talk about is what's called an OKR. So OKR is objectives and key results. So this is a goal setting framework that helps to create clear and measurable goals. So an OKR statement typically comprises of your objective, which is going to be like your clearly defined goal, and then your key results. So these are specific and measurable, and they're used to track the achievement of your goal. So if you're going to use this, we're going to use the same example of opening or launching an Etsy store next year. Your objective could look like this: to successfully launch a curated Etsy store by the end of next year. So your key results, the first one would be develop and finalize your product list by a specific date. So by June 1st. So this would involve deciding what products you're going to sell, such as, is it going to be handmade crafts? Is it going to be vintage finds? Is it going to be that jewelry, right? You have to have a clear product list that's really going to set the foundation for your store. So that is the first key result. The next one is to create and set up a Etsy store page with at least 6 products by June 3rd. Okay. So again, very specific, has the number of products and a date along with it as well. Your next result would be to establish brand identity, including your logo, your store description, as well as branding materials by a specific date. So by April 1st, right? So that, again, measurable. It says exactly what you're doing by what date, right? Another one would be developing a marketing plan to execute to gain 500 followers on Instagram by August 3rd. So that really focuses on promoting your Etsy store and growing your following on social media, which is going to be crucial to driving traffic to your store in order for your store to be successful. So you see how this is all tying back to that main objective of successfully launching an Etsy store. Okay, another objective could be, or another key result could be generating 10 sales in the first month of the launch. It's key to set a specific number here to provide that clear and measurable success of the store early on. And then finally, receive a minimum of 7 customer reviews with an average rating of 4.5 within the first 3 months of launching. Again, you see it's very clear on customer reviews, how much the rating is, and how many reviews as well, right? And all of those things are going to go into saying whether or not you successfully launched that Etsy store by the end of the year. All right, so those are the 2 different strategies. So your SMART goals and OKRs are 2 different frameworks. You can use them both. You can use just one of them. Either way, they are used for different purposes and different contexts. So your OKRs are going to be used to set and communicate clear and measurable goals and the results throughout the organization or even for yourself. So if it's just you working on it, you can do that. It's going to make sure that you're focused on measurable outcomes. Again, they're going to clearly define the goals and the results so that you can see if you're tracking on meeting that one goal, right? So it's kind of broke down into a couple different goals. There's different ways of doing it. So SMART goals, on the other hand, setting very specific and clear goals to create that very clear roadmap, right? Again, it's going to be specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, time bound. The difference between those typically, so both frameworks work really well. It just depends on what working style you like better. Um, There is one more goal setting framework that is a little bit different than the both of them. And this is called HAGs, big, hairy, audacious goals, right? So these are used for that long-term strategic planning. For me, my big, hairy, audacious goal is to build this online business that has a lot of different things that include online courses, the podcast. I'm going to write a book one day. All of those things are going to be intertwined within each other. And each one of those different sections has its own set of SMART goals. But that big, hairy, audacious goal is to create this big, cohesive brand and all of the things. So right now, I'm working on building out all of the little pieces that are going to come into that big goal, right? So they're much more, your big, hairy goals are much more ambitious. They're long term, a lot more long term than your OKRs or your SMART goals are going to be. And they're less about specifics and measurements and more about the overall vision and aspiration for whatever it is that you are going for. You have to decide what feels best for you. But I definitely just suggest to go ahead and set that BHAG, that big, hairy, audacious goal based on your dream. So that's going to be where you put that dream that we talked about earlier, that feeling, that calling for what it is that you want more out of life. That's really where that long-term vision comes in. That's the thing that's going to get you out of bed in the morning, as long as you can keep it front of mind. And that is one of the hardest parts, is keeping those goals front of mind and not getting bogged down into the little things. For me anyways, I have to see the grand plan, the bigger picture. That's the way that my brain works best, is when I can see all the little pieces and how they fit together from like a bird's eye view. That is when I can push through and do all of the stuff. When I get down in the weeds of like, okay, I have to do this, and then I have to do that, and then I have to do this, and then I have to do that, I can get burnt out so fast, and my brain just goes very squirrely, which is what happened yesterday. I found myself, designing websites that I didn't need to be working on instead of working on podcast stuff. So as you start to feel into what your goals are, and as you start to really put into writing how you're going to get from where you're at to where you want to go, you're going to come up against some obstacles, whether it is yourself, whether it's outside forces. There's going to be friction, right? There is no such thing as just like this easy climb to success. Everyone is going to have peaks. They're going to have valleys, whether it is from the outside, whether it is your own brain, your own mind, like getting in your way. It's going to happen. And for me, I'm going to talk about, I think, 3 of the biggest things, or I guess 4 of the biggest things that have really put me back and kind of make me mad, like that I've had to deal with this a little bit. So the first one is the fear of failure. And I kind of talked about this earlier, where there were certain points in my life where I knew that I wanted more. I knew that I wanted to build something different, that I wanted to step outside of the norm of what everything else that was going on. But the problem that I really fell up against was I was afraid to even put into writing, to even put into words, to even fully put the story together in my brain about what it is that I wanted, because what if I failed? Like, what if I didn't make it happen? What happened? What would happen if I didn't succeed? And that kept me stuck and in the same place for a long time. And that makes me mad that I let that hold me back, in all honesty. Because when I really dug down into it and asked myself, okay, so what happens? What's the worst thing that can happen if I go all in and it doesn't work? What's the worst thing that could happen? Well, people will think that I failed. Okay. And why do I care about what people think? Well, because it would be embarrassing. And okay, what happens if I don't go after my goals? What happens if I stay where I'm at, if I keep doing what I'm doing on autopilot? Then I'll be mad at myself. And I will deep down be embarrassed that I never went after the thing, that I never even tried, right? And I really had to weigh which one is worse, like trying and maybe failing, or never trying and knowing deep down that I'm going to have to live with that. And for me, that was worse. That is what really got me going and let me take that next brave step forward, right? So the fear of failure, like it is real. It's there. Everybody deals with it at some point or another. And I think everyone's going to feel it in different ways, right? Um, but don't let the fear of failure keep you from ever starting because you're already failing if you never even start, right? The next big thing that I have come up against time and time again in lots of different aspects is self-doubt and imposter syndrome. So, imposter syndrome is basically the feeling that like you don't belong there. You don't actually know what you're doing. And if anyone finds out that you don't actually know what you're doing, they're going to be really mad at you. And my thought is that this probably goes into like some type of like childhood psychology thing somewhere deep down in there that we're all dealing with. Haven't quite figured all of that out. But what has helped me kind of get through this is like, first off, everybody starts doing whatever it is that they're doing, not knowing what they're doing because they've never done it before, right? Like, you don't get mad at your child for not knowing how to walk when they're just learning how to walk, right? They fall down, you don't say, "Oh, you should have known how to do that. You should have known how to like run a marathon already." No, you don't do that. You say, "Get back up, try again. Come over here, come to mom," right? Like that's the like mentality that we really should have with ourselves is like we're just learning how to do the thing because we've never done the thing before. So that's the first part, right? Um, the second thing is like everyone has started from the bottom. Like nobody knew how to paint a masterpiece the second they were born, right? Sure, there was some like talent of things, but like born into you, but you didn't know how to do that at the very beginning. So give yourself some grace that maybe you are learning how to do it, and that's okay. Like you are allowed to learn as you go. That is how you learn. The next thing that I want to kind of instill in you or talk to you about is that you will figure it out as you go. You, if you keep showing up with the mentality of like, it's okay if it's not perfect. I'm going to keep learning. You're going to mess up at some point or another, and that's okay. That's really the only way that you can get over this self-doubt, this imposter syndrome, is if you can give yourself grace in the process of doing whatever it is that you're doing, whether it is launching a business, whether it is, working out. You're gonna miss some days. You're going to not, have the amazing launch that you dream of out of the gate. Maybe you will. That would be awesome. Have at it. But it's okay to have some grace with yourself. Um, the next thing that I have really had hold me back is kind of two things in one. So the first one is like analysis paralysis. Wow, can't speak today. And the second one is perfectionism. And for me, those kind of go hand in hand. So I will sit back, and like I said, I like to see the big plan, how everything fits together, and map it all out. And very often, I can find myself trying to map out the most perfect launch sequence, most perfect email sequence, and, make sure that everything looks and sounds and feels exactly the way that I want it to feel in order to get my brand message across and all the things, that I don't ever actually take the action to do the thing. A great example of this is this podcast. So I actually wrote all of these episodes for this entire season back in August. And I sat down and recorded a couple of them. But then I decided I wanted to add video in because that's what all the cool kids were doing, was adding in video. Especially if I wanted to start making reels and TikToks to promote the podcast on it. Like, I was gonna need video content, of course, right? How else would I do anything? Well, how did I do the first 2 seasons, Chelsea? You did it. So we are now sitting here in December, and I am finally getting around to doing it because, spoiler alert, I quit my job because, it felt like it was draining my soul. And now I am full in on this business, and I don't know how it's going to work out. There's a lot on the line, but I'm really, really excited. And I am finally at a point where I am all in. All of my chips are on the table. I'm not letting any excuses hold me back. I'm not letting the imposter syndrome hold me back. I'm not letting the analysis paralysis or the perfectionism hold me back. I'm going to show up perfectly imperfect, right? So I'm going to keep taking that next brave step forward. It doesn't have to be perfectly curated. It doesn't have to be a giant leap. As long as I keep moving forward, I will succeed. Like, there is no if, ands, or buts about it. It's going to happen. That's where I'm at right now. That is how I am, how I got to being the economic development director back to being the podcast host. Now that we've kind of talked about the frameworks that we can use to figure out our goals, and we've talked about the power of our dream, there's one more component that really helps whenever you are trying to take this dream and turn it into action, and that is the power of community. So, community can look like a lot of different things. It can be a group of people, it can be your best friend, it can be your partner. It's someone else to walk alongside you and share knowledge, encouragement, and even be that accountability that you need to get up and do the thing in order to achieve the goal that you want. Whether it's, an accountability partner in the gym that's going to be waiting for you at 5:30 a.m. at the gym with your pre-workout ready for you, or it is a coach who is going to talk through your business goals and your plans and help you with your strategy and give you feedback on, hey, have you thought about this? There's so many different ways to find community, whether it is something like our insiders group for our podcast, which is an amazing place to find free support and encouragement to, share your wins and share your losses and share what's holding you back. I love the community that we are building inside our Facebook group. So if you are not already a part of our group, I really suggest that you join us. You can search for Next Brave Step Podcast Insiders on Facebook. We will also have the link in the show note below. But really, the power of having someone alongside you along your journey is invaluable. It is so easy to feel so isolated when you're going after something big, whether it is trying to build a business, whether it is launching a shop, whether it is trying to lose weight. Having people around you to cheer you on can make it so much better. Really invite you to find your community, find your people, whether it's, people in real life that you can call and vent to about whatever it is that's going on, or brainstorm, what's working and what's not working, and maybe they can offer another alternative to you. but reach out and find your people. You have to go looking for them. Sometimes they fall into your laps, but in all honesty, the best types of communities that I have been a part of have been masterminds, where I have been in quite a few masterminds where I've met some amazing and talented women who are doing so many cool things that I've learned so much from. I have a friend who's a wedding planner down in Mexico, and I am just in awe of the beauty that she creates. Her marketing that looks like amazing, and like, I want to go get married in Mexico now. That sounds amazing. So not only do you get to learn from people and be inspired by them, but you also create this amazing network where you're referring people to them and they're referring people to you because you guys do different things. So definitely look into being a part of a mastermind. So, homework for today, I want you to sit down and write out your big, hairy, audacious goal. Feel into that dream, get quiet with yourself, and ask yourself, like, if I got what I wanted, if it all worked out, what would it look like? What would it feel like? That's your first homework. Your next set is to join the Insiders Facebook group, find some community, and then also start writing out that action plan of how you're going to get from point A to point B. If you are listening to this episode before January 8th, 2023, we are hosting a Vision into Action goal setting challenge, which I am thrilled about doing. It's going to be so much fun. It's a completely free challenge. It will run from January 8th until January 14th. So it's a 7-day challenge. You will get a lesson emailed to you in the morning. And then inside another Facebook group, we will be going live to talk about the lesson. So there is basically everything you need to create this roadmap for success, to create what it is that you want to create in 2024. Whether you are wanting to launch a new business, launch a new product, take your side hustle to your full-time gig, any of those things would be great things to have for your vision for 2024. Anyways, I hope that you will join me for the challenge. We will have the link down below in the show notes for you to join that. I'm hoping this will be something that we do yearly. Again, it's a totally free challenge. My hope is that you will leave the challenge with a clear plan of how to accomplish that goal, that dream that's deep inside of you, right? That is my hope for you at the end of that. And it's going to happen, but you need to take the next step and sign up for the challenge. So again, if you want to sign up for the challenge, a Vision into Action challenge, you can grab the link down below in the show notes and you can get yourself signed up for that. Also, we'll have the link to join the Facebook group for the podcast insiders. Inside there, we do some deeper dives into our episodes, and it's such a great place to meet other people who are also taking that next brave step forward, whatever that next step is, whether it's a big leap or just a small little baby step. As long as you keep moving forward, that is the group that you need to be in. All right, guys, that is it for this episode. Thank you so much for joining me. I cannot wait for you to see all of the other episodes that we have coming up. We are now, if you're listening to this, we are streaming this, or we're showing this on YouTube as well. So if you want to see what I look like when I am recording these podcast episodes, we are available on YouTube. You can just search the Next Brave Step podcast and you can find us there and subscribe. All right, guys, that's it for this episode. I will see you in the next one. Bye. That wraps up today's episode of The Next Brave Step. I've truly enjoyed having you join me on this journey. Here at The Next Brave Step, we don't just talk about our dreams, we take bold actions towards them every day. Stay connected by hitting that subscribe button and dive even deeper with us by becoming part of the Next Brave Step Insiders group on Facebook. Let the insights and energy from today's conversation ignite your next brave step forward. Remember, every small step is a vital part of your incredible journey. So get out there and take that next step forward. You're never alone. I'll be right here cheering you on. I'll see you in the next episode.